Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the FYE Talks podcast. This is your host, Alexis Hutchinson, and it's so good to see you. We're here today with Amber Hubry, and she runs the WIN Center. So, Amber, can you tell us a little bit about the WIN Center?
Sure. So the WIN Center is a tutoring center located on the main Elizabethtown campus. And we have a total of 6 part-time tutors that serve students in a wide variety of subject areas simply based on highest need. So we offer tutoring services virtually on Blackboard Collaborate as well as Zoom. And then additionally, we also offer tutoring in person as well. So we are open Monday through Thursday from 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. And we are located in the Academic Technical Building in room 100. In addition to the tutoring services that we provide, we also host a variety of virtual and in-person workshops. And then we also host a peer mentoring program. The workshops are centered more on giving students the opportunity to connect either with other students, other faculty and staff members, or also even other community members that may potentially be individuals that would be interviewing them in the future. And then our peer mentoring program is geared towards pairing returning ECTC students with first semester students, just to help them kind of navigate that college process and some of the ins and outs of things that they may not be aware of whenever they're coming in that they need to be aware of pretty quickly in order to be successful. So those main components of the WIN Center are tutoring services and workshops, as well as the peer mentoring program.
Wonderful. And we know the WIN Center serves a super important role here on campus in helping students get ready for college. And so that ties directly in with what we're here to talk about today. We're beginning a new semester. It's the spring and everything is new. And though we are still in a pandemic, that doesn't mean that we can't be preparing ourselves for that virtual learning environment that we'll see this semester. And so I've got Amber here, and we're going to tell you some tips and tricks that we have for starting your semester off on the right foot. And so, Amber, would you like to start us?
Sure. So first of all, as far as all of our listeners to this episode of the FYE Talks podcast, I think this topic can be so helpful for all of you all as you begin the semester, because there's so many little specifics that can take up a lot of time later on if you don't really plan accordingly. So I love that, me and Alexis are being able to kind of talk about this and go back and forth with this concept today, because both of us were first generation college students that were figuring it out whenever, we jumped into the mix as well. And so we've kind of learned some tips and tricks that can just help you all, be set up for success from the very beginning. So I would say one of the things that I learned really quickly whenever I first began attending college was the importance of staying organized. And I naturally really like for things to be organized. So that was kind of a natural strength of mine. But I think that first semester I realized that it wasn't a matter of whether or not I wanted to be organized. It was a necessity if you were going to take care of business and do a good job. So what I found to be really helpful, and I've actually given it to many college students, over the past few years, is I found a one-page weekly schedule. And so it had spelled out, Sunday to Saturday from like 6 a.m. until I think 10 p.m. And what I did was go through and plug in all my classes on there as far as the days and times that they were being held at. And then all the times that I worked various jobs, I had all those work schedules on there. And then that blank time basically that was left, I scheduled in when I would be studying, or if there was maybe a club I was involved in and they always met maybe the same time every week, I plugged that in there as well. And that gave me a framework to say, hey, I could take this other thing on, I had the time for that, or I can't take this other, activity on because there's literally no room left in the schedule. And that helped me stay on target as far as whenever I, was just kind of mapping out and planning things ahead. So I think it's really important for students to just get organized from the very beginning. Set your weekly schedule of when you're going to do what for your classes, maybe, around maybe work times that you have and things like that. But that's really, really important. So, Lexi, did you have anything in particular that you did whenever you began college as far as kind of staying organized with your classes and your schedule?
Absolutely. And so I couldn't agree more. I am the opposite of Amber. I am a very disorganized person by nature. I kind of like, I won't say I'm disorganized so much as I like organized chaos. And so you quickly find that if that's your system or you're just not an organized person by nature, you quickly have to make a system. Some people kind of go by the seat of their pants, so to speak, and, kind of take it as it comes. And that works in a certain way, it'll definitely get you through. But as far as like keeping you stress free, keeping you from piling on obligations you may not be able to meet, keeping you from maybe disappointing yourself or others, it really does help to have some type of system to keep you organized, to keep dates and times and things like that in your head, especially if remembering all those dates and times and assignments and when they were due and working in time for studying and then you got to work this week, different things like that. You need to have that all laid out. And so I really struggled when I was trying to get organized because a lot of the systems that were popular, so like online planners, using an online calendar, things like that, that was kind of the big push when I was in college. And, I just couldn't get into that because I wouldn't check it. I wouldn't go back and look at it. It just kind of fell to the wayside because, in all honesty, it was kind of boring. It was boring to go in and just kind of plug those dates in. And then there was no incentive for me to kind of go back and look at it. And so, what I found really works for me, and this isn't a product plug or anything, but I got a physical written planner. And, right when I was going into college, the Happy Planner, which is a planner brand, was kind of in full swing. So it worked out really good. And with that planner, the whole point of it pretty much is to turn it into an art project. And that was something that really appealed to me. So Sunday night, like clockwork, and even now as I'm an adult and, I'm not in school anymore, but just with work and everything else, I still use it. And I sit down on Sunday, I put in everything that I've got for the upcoming week. I leave room for if I need to add things, and I just pack it around with me everywhere. It's got my grocery lists in it. It's got everything and anything, family functions, people's birthdays, budget information, bills are coming out these days, everything, and not only would I use it, would I sit down and plug in everything that I had going on, I would want to go back and look at it because I'm like, oh, this looks so pretty. I put all this effort into it, and it was fun to go back and review it and check things off and, mark things out. And I could see progress. And then when you flip back through it, a month or a couple months later, you can see, oh, wow, look at all this stuff that I got accomplished. And so that was super motivating for me. It helped me get really organized with, my time and my schedule and things like that. I wasn't forgetting things as often because I just didn't write them down or, I was like, oh, I'll remember that and put it in my, my digital planner later. I wouldn't, so that was super helpful for me. And then I was able to keep everything in one place and it wasn't scattered around and lost. So I highly encourage, if you're able to do the digital planner, and even those are, a lot more intuitive, a lot more creative now than they used to be, that is super effective. But the written planner can't support that enough. It was super helpful. I enjoyed it a lot.
And you make a really good point, Alexis, as far as talking about that you had everything in one place too, because I think some people or some students, they'll have a variety of different methods going on, but they're not really thoroughly checking all of them.
Absolutely.
Whether it's like a written planner for classes, but then they're like, oh, I keep all the other stuff on my phone. Well, that may work for some people, but I am personally am exactly the same as Alexis in that I have everything in a written planner, and that is just where everything goes. So I know if there's something I need to be getting done or something that I need to be planning ahead for, it is in there. And when I was in college, I did the same thing too, and I had, just like Alexis was talking about, like budget information in there and birthdays, family get-togethers. I had mine set up the exact same way. Everything went in that planner, but I color coded everything. So if I had, 2 online classes maybe that semester and 3 on campus, then I would have each of those classes in my planner a different color. And whenever, let's say I was taking, introduction to biology, if I had a assignment that was due for that class, then I would have the deadline for that assignment written in my planner. And I would always, look ahead over the next few weeks. So I would know what I had, kind of coming down the pipe so that I could plan ahead for that. So, that works for some people. My husband is exactly the opposite. He doesn't write anything down in a ring planner. Everything goes on his phone, no matter what it is. Prefers that digital platform. And he's almost a decade older than me. So it's kind of interesting that I grew up in the tech generation, but I don't actually prefer that route. So it's just completely your choice, but I definitely encourage students to have everything in one place. Don't scatter things out, because you're so much more likely to miss a deadline for a paper or, in another assignment if you have things kind of spread out and sloppy like that.
Exactly. And I don't know. I can't function if everything is in like a different app or a different, binder. I know some people they do, 5 different notebooks, they're color coded. That's a good system. I am that 5 subject, 1 notebook kind of person. It's all going to be condensed down. And so yeah,
Right.
those are really effective. And then also I think something that students don't really plan for, especially like traditional students coming straight from high school to college, is it is a different environment. Like you have to know how to schedule yourself, because in high school, everything is scheduled for you, right? Your classes are at a specific time. You have no choice in that. You don't get any input on it. If you have an event, it's scheduled for you, things like that. But in college, I think it's such a shock for some people that, your advisor's like, well, when do you want to come to school? And they're like, what do you mean? And it's like, well,
Right.
you can choose, like you can figure out your good time for you. But I think there's a disconnect because a lot of people hear that and they're like, "Oh yeah, I don't want to go in the morning. I want to go in the afternoon." Well, do you actually want to go in the afternoon or do you want to hang out with your friends in the afternoon? So you have to really schedule yourself in a way that maximizes your productivity. Like if you're not a morning person and you hate getting up in the morning and you cannot pay attention past, or before a certain time, then don't take a morning class. Even if it lets you get out a little bit earlier in the afternoon, it's not going to maximize your success. And so really knowing how to balance, your personal life, your professional life, families, obligations, things like that. Are you good at scheduling yourself? I think is something that students don't really think about, but it really helps you out.
You're spot on. And the other thing too, it makes a difference for those students that are taking on campus or in-person classes versus those online. So, if you're listening to this podcast and you're signed up for some classes that are online this semester, you may have some of those online classes that actually meet at specific days and times. And then you may have some that it's just a traditional online course where you can log in at any time. It's not like you're required to be online at specific days and times, but you still have deadlines for those assignments. If you're in one of those traditional online courses, make sure that you intentionally schedule time that you are going to work on that. Because I think online classes work really well for people that are naturally very disciplined and organized with time. I think they're more of a struggle for people that aren't necessarily naturally geared that way, or the only way that they can really stay on target is if they are physically in the classroom. So make a point if you have those traditional online classes and you are not naturally as good as scheduling yourself to be involved at a certain time and committing to that, then just make a point to really focus and work on that, because that doesn't come easy for some people.
Oh, absolutely. And I did my bachelor's degree completely online. I didn't go to campus except to pick out my books. That was the only time I went to EKU. And it was all about planning your own time. You had due dates for assignments, but there wasn't any class meeting to tell you, hey, did you make sure you should be this far along on this project, or you should have this much done on this assignment right now. There were no reminders like that. And there were no reminders of when things were due other than, on the assignment itself in there, it would say, hey, this is due by midnight. And so it really took sitting down and saying, okay, I've got a discussion board, I've got these assignments, I need to study still for this exam that's coming up and these other things, but I also want to have some semblance of a life. So how can I put this
Yeah.
together? What am I willing to sacrifice to get this scheduled in a way that's going to help me? And so for me, that was staying up later, sleeping in a little bit early or later in the morning. But that was when I was most productive, was in the evenings. It's when I was done with everything I had. And that was when I was able to kind of say, okay, I'm going to dedicate this much time to this class, this much time to that class. And, hold yourself accountable with it. If you go the planner route, then put it in your planner. Like, I'm going to work on this assignment. I think I need 30 minutes to an hour to finish it. That's my, estimation. And then do that with all of your assignments and then tweak it. But the thing is, if you never figure out how long it takes you, then you're not going to know and you're going to fall behind. Like, if you have a paper and it's a 2-page paper and that's something you struggle with, don't give yourself an hour, or an hour and 30 minutes. Give yourself a couple days, or if that's something you're like, I can knock this out in not that much time and it's going to be good. I'm going to have somebody review it. I don't need as much time, but I've got this math assignment that is my weak point. I don't do that very fast. I need to give myself more time for that and I can take away from this other thing. Or I just need to give myself more hours in the day period to do both of them because I need the time. College is about like figuring out who you are, your strengths and weaknesses, your passions, all of it, and a big part of that is like figuring out what you can do, what you can stand.
Right. And I think it's also important for students to keep in mind it is okay if you stumble in the process.
Absolutely.
It's not um it's not this end all be all that if you do poorly on one test that there is just no way that you can graduate college. That is not true.
And you do
So
not need to hit the abort button.
yes, like this is not oh my gosh, it's never going to work. I've done wasn't designed for this type of situation. Most students, even students that have done very well in high school, and high school went pretty easily for them, most students still struggle initially their first semester in college. And it's because it's a completely new environment. In high school, you have teachers that are reminding you about everything. College is not geared that way. So it's okay to stumble. I think where students don't just stumble, but where they stop working towards their degree, or they kind of throw their hands up and give up and say, I'm just not cut out for this, or this is not for me, is whenever they don't seek the resources that are available around them. So if you are, coming into college and you take your first exam in your English 101 class and you bomb it, realize that there are many tutoring services across this campus and many people that can assist you so that you don't bomb the next exam, or that you don't fail the next paper that you have to write for that class. So some students are really good about reaching out to me at the very beginning of each semester and saying, hey, I feel like I'm going to really struggle in this class, or hey, I know that science courses are the subject area that I struggle the most in. I want to go ahead and schedule a weekly tutoring appointment in this class with one of your tutors just to get off on the right foot. I would much rather a student do that. And then if maybe there's a week where they say, hey, I really don't have anything that I actually need help with in this class this week, I can cancel my appointment for this week. I would much rather a student do that just to stay on top of things than a student wait until 2 weeks before the very end of a semester and say, hey, I'm getting ready to fail this class. I need help now. At that point, you were about 14 weeks probably behind in some material that cannot simply be made up in just a matter of days.
Absolutely.
So students make that mistake all of the time. And it's heartbreaking because oftentimes it's very avoidable. So don't procrastinate on that, or don't avoid reaching out for assistance, because there's so many resources available for students. And it's not a matter of that if you do poorly on your first exam that again, that you're not cut out for this, so to speak. Sometimes it's a matter of even not necessarily that a tutor sits down with you and is going over every bit of information with you. Sometimes it's as simple as you sitting down with a tutor that said, hey, I had that exact same instructor as well. here's how the class is geared, just to give them some pointers to say, these are some things you need to keep in mind about that class. This is how it's structured. And then the student can say, oh, that makes more sense. Now I know how to operate with this. So sometimes it's just little things that can go a really long way whenever a student is kind of struggling in a class. So I say access all your resources early on, and get set up for tutoring early on in any class that you have a feeling that you're going to struggle in. And then even if you come in confident and say, normally I'm pretty good in math, and I think I'm going to breeze right through this. And then 2 weeks into the class, you say, this is a little bit harder than what I
Yeah,
originally
I was not
thought it was
right.
going to be. Exactly. Then reach out and say, hey, I thought I had this. I totally don't. I need a little bit of help. And, we'll schedule you for some tutoring. In addition to that, it's really important that you get connected very well with your academic advisor early on, because as an incoming student, or even a returning student, sometimes there's a wide variety of questions to be had, whether it's, I have no idea what to do to schedule classes for the next semester, or I keep getting this email from the financial aid office about, my bill or my FAFSA, whatever, and I have no idea what it's talking about or what this entails. I have no idea how I'm going to pay for my classes for the rest of the semester, etc. You name it. You kind of need a main point of contact at the college to be able to funnel some of those questions through. So where even if maybe that individual doesn't work in a specific office that deals with that, they can tell you exactly who to talk to. So, Alexis and I are both academic advisors or serve in an advising role, and we get all kinds of questions from the students that are assigned to us as advisees. And that's okay because they have a main point of contact here at the college to say, I have no idea what to do about this, or I don't know where to go for this. And we can funnel them to the right person or in the right direction. So it's important that you develop, a good relationship with your academic advisor. And first of all, that you know who they even are, because a lot of students won't have a clue who their advisor is.
Very
But if
true.
you log into your student self-service account, your advisor is listed under your account. It'll have their name, and then you can search their email address on the website to be able to reach out to them. So use that advisor and reach out to them when you have questions.